Some parts of the world where you've built up an established business, you're kind of a bit fearful to go into new ways of doing things, all right? But in this part of the world, some of our businesses are growing very fast, but not massively huge yet. So we're free to kind of try new things and try innovative. And I think that's the key difference in this part of the world. As the business grows, the market opportunity is so big, no one's got it right in this part of the world to just be perfect at doing it, because it's just a growing, evolving market. And I think over time, as Asia kind of starts to be the growth engine of what's happening around the world, that'll be when it kind of starts to take off, when the actual numbers of China, India, Korea, Australia, those internet numbers kind of just drive the volumes. If you look at America, internet level penetrations have kind of matured, and they're in a sense competing for market share now. Europe is still growing, but the potential for this part of the world is massive. China surpassed America as the most amount of internet users several months ago, and so there's just a massive upside in this part of the world. So absolutely, there's a strategic shift from what's happening in the West coming to the East, and I think the recession or economic crisis has kind of fueled that or accelerated that transfer. I mean, for the first time, you're seeing Chinese companies buying Western companies, and it's a good thing, right? And this kind of accelerated growth. So I think it's great for the region. And as part of Zuji Travelocity Last Minute, we're totally invested in this part of the world, in growing out markets and investing more. A lot of those brands actually have counterparts in China now that kind of are copies of it, right? And I sense that this part of the world will start with that, because that's how they initially start. But if you notice the trends of a country like Japan, they initially started up by copying things, eventually now produce some of the most amazing things in the world, right? And I think it's just to do with the cultural heritage of innovation. America has a history of innovation, history of trying new things, new technologies, etc. And that took time. It didn't happen overnight, right? And I sense the same thing with Asia, but I sense Asia will go a lot faster because the market is there and the demand is there. And so it's just a matter of time till this part of the world starts to export brands. For example, Zuji, we're trying a new travel media brand called Travel Mimi, right? And Mimi is Mandarin in secret, and we're targeting this part of the world. I mean, the whole idea is it's all about people, the places they like, coming together to make travel better. And basically, we're trying to create this kind of system where you have a map of the world, you drop in a Google pin, you upload text and images of a particular destination. Like, for example, you live in Sydney, so I'll come to you and say, in Sydney, where can I eat, shop, etc. Right? So I come to look at your map, I love some of the things you do, I'll pin it to my map, and so I create my own kind of travel mimi. And that's one of the things we're trying out in this part of the world. Those two factors are true. The first bit about talent is obviously the intellectual powerhouse that is currently not in this part of the world. But I've actually noticed in the past few months, several of my friends are moving to this part of the world. Things in the West aren't happening anymore, and they're coming here to drive innovation, to drive new thinking. Right? People would grow up here as kids, and then they go educate themselves in the West and stay there. But in the last 5 to 10 years, those people are starting to come back. And I think that's going to build. That they bring across the cultural innovation. Once that comes, the money will follow. There are investment engines here that want to put money into this part of the world, so that's definitely going to come. And the third thing I think we need is kind of breakthrough brands that actually make a difference. Ones that kind of like people will look up to from this part of the world and say, wow, this brand came from this part of the world. I think those three factors, the talent, the investment, and success stories, will just kind of build a momentum. This part is, how do you make a Twitter? How do you make a Microsoft? Or how do you make an Oracle? And it comes down to the competitive, cultural, innovative nature that's within those markets which are coming to this part of the world. Part of the reason why we started Zuji in this region, everyone thought online travel, you're never going to do it. It's so, covered by all these different competitions and stuff. But we have made a decent footprint. We're growing each of our markets. We're making a difference in this part of the world, and that kind of keeps you inspired and innovative. And the great thing is, internet travel is only maybe 20% of all travel booked in Asia Pac, 80% to go. So massive market share and growth. So travel has transitioned from kind of a luxury to a rite of passage. It's like saying, I've arrived in this world. I can afford a holiday to go from here to somewhere. All right, and that's a fundamental shift. And the two countries that haven't gone through that rite of passage are China and India. These guys are like, they're racing to be like the middle class, or racing to say we have arrived. And so for us, it's exciting to be in this part of the world, because travel is a rite of passage saying I have arrived. I can now afford to leave my country and spend in someone else's country. There were two kind of big events in this part of the world last year that kind of shifted us, and this will be the third. The first one was the Sichuan earthquake in China, right? And everyone saw how China was able to help their people, and the whole world's attention turned to it. And out of a crisis came the opportunity for healing and growth, right? The second one is obviously the Beijing Olympics, a massive watershed session that put China on the map, right? And I think their economic recession is just another, kind of the third thing, and I'm not saying they're coordinated, but it's just another event that has showcased this part of the world, that people were looking to this part of the world to help invest and pull the whole economy, pull the whole world out of recession, right? And I think as these things happen, it's opportunity for this part of the world just to step up and say, we can actually take a lead in solving some of the world's problems. I think you'll see a move towards relevance and mobility. All right, relevance in terms of information tailored and targeted to you. So, like for example, the Travel Mimi thing is our attempt at making travel relevant to some person, making it personalized. And technology can enable all those things to happen, right? So that's the relevance piece. The second piece, I think, is about mobility. So reaching customers where they're at a particular time. We're obviously developing an iPhone app for Travel Mimi. So the whole idea is, I have all these Mimis, I arrive in a completely different country, I flip out my iPhone, I have a GPS locator, tells me I'm 20 minutes away from this Mimi, 30 minutes away from this Mimi. So all this stuff that's kind of sci-fi is actually happening, and we're going to roll this out in the next few weeks. And it's quite cool. And the thing is, it's not totally techie, but it's very kind of social network, it's relevant to me, and it's about me being mobile to help me enjoy my travel and holiday better. And I think that's what's going to happen. You're going to find more and more people, the kind of edgy, kind of weird out there stuff that people used to say, mobile marketing, social networking, will become more mainstream because it's more relevant and because it just empowers the whole thing. So that's where I see travel going. If you asked me 3 months ago whether we had a Facebook 2.0 strategy, I'd say no. But I think a lot of the innovation driven out of the fact that reduced marketing budgets, increased demands on our P&L, we've had to just innovate. And yeah, we now have thousands of followers on Facebook and Twitter, and we seem to be getting closer to them in terms of relationship. Be extremely passionate about what it is you're trying to achieve. You don't want to come to this part of the world and let everyone pull you in many directions, because that's going to happen. There's going to be so much different opportunities. You just got to say, this is what we're here for. This is the reason that we are here. This is the purpose, right? And that's key in defining and understanding and knowing that. Second one is just stay incredibly passionate and persistent. Don't give up on your ideas. Keep trying. I mean, when we got here, people said, you'll never sell a ticket online. You'll never sell a hotel online. And we've sold thousands of hotels and thousands of flight tickets, So always be persistent. And the other thing, I suppose, is network with people. In this part of the world, networks are very, very important. And so just align yourself with the right kind of industry groups or players that can help you kind of come and pull that vision together. What I really like about working at Zuji is the empowerment of local managers, right? So the Travelocity last minute, European US company, right? They could have come here and say, here's the platform, take it or leave it, you do marketing this way, right? But the great thing about Zuji is that each of the teams in each of the 7 countries we're in, local management, with local relationships, with local hotels, and airlines that kind of build it up to a common vision. Right? And that's fundamental, because you're right, Asia is not a homogeneous one nation country, the continent. It's just full of intricate little bits and pieces. So the key advice is, find really good local managers, empower them with a vision, and just set them loose. Release them into do whatever they are capable of doing, and as a regional person, support them in that whole process. Just support them in, winning the battles, closing the deals, whatever it is.